Hey everybody, I'm back with another set of Spear of the Church invasions. I spent the last video talking quite a bit about the mechanics of the Covenant and how it works. I can share just a few more details. I mentioned fighting against a lone host here is typically pretty boring because the majority of them really don't know how to play PvP, so they are really at an enormous disadvantage. You can see here just an example of a fight that was over very, very quickly. If you are not an experienced PvP player, you do not want to attempt this invasion online by yourself. You want at least a Phantom with you so you can split the Guardians up and the human player. So again, you get one Guardian in the very beginning. About 15 seconds later, the human invader spawns in, and then when the invader's at about 60% of health, you'll hear Argo say something about making haste. And that's the key that the second Guardian is on the way. If you play this by yourself, if you're the host in this situation, you really have to kill that first Guardian before the invader shows up. You have about 15 seconds to do so. If you don't, you're really in some big trouble. So you can see here, I've got some fights with single lone hosts, and they really don't have much of a chance. I mean, they're running away to heal because I'm right in their face. But of course, as soon as they heal, I just take it right back. And they just don't have much of a chance here. It's a very difficult boss fight for a single host who is not PvP experienced. The really fun ones are where I have 3 and 4 Phantoms, and I've got a few examples of those coming up here in a little bit. So to be summoned for this fight, you either need to be a member of the Covenant, or I understand you can put down your white or red summon sign outside the boss fog. It may be anywhere within the Ring City DLC. It may actually be anywhere in the game. I don't know what the actual requirements are. I have not spent a lot of time trying to be summoned for this fight outside of my capacity as a Spear of the Church. So if anyone watching this does have experience with that, I'd be really curious to hear your impressions and feedback and how frequently you're being summoned. It's also not clear to me from a prioritization perspective how the game manages it. So I presume a Spear of the Church is more likely to be summoned than a random with their summon sign down, but I'm not sure. And what if you're a Spear of the Church and you put your summon sign down? Does that somehow increase your priority? Probably not, but it's just not clear how this whole system works. I'm sure the community will figure this out in great detail in the coming weeks, but until then, all we can really do is speculate. I also mentioned in my previous video the summoning frequency is way down. I'm lucky now to get an invasion once every half an hour or so, which is kind of frustrating, to be honest. You know, the Covenant doesn't offer much else. It's kind of turning into a Dark Moon Covenant. The nice thing about the Dark Moon Covenant, obviously, is you can just play through the game, and then it's an interesting side adventure when you get summoned. With this Covenant, you don't even get access to it until likely very near the end of the DLC, or perhaps even at the very end after you beat the Dragon Midir. Now you can be summoned elsewhere in the game. You don't have to be in the DLC. So maybe if you join the Covenant New Game, maybe a New Game Plus, you keep it on and you get some summons that way. I could see that being fun, but it really doesn't offer anything outside of these boss fights. They even give you Covenant rewards, but the Covenant rewards are only usable in the boss fight. So you can see I have the Ritual Spear Fragment selected below, and that's what enables me to send spikes shooting up from the ground. I've not had a lot of success with that. I haven't found it to be useful. I'm sure it is. It would not be in the game if it weren't useful. I just probably haven't figured out the optimal way to use it yet. So if anyone out there who's seen this has ideas on the right way to use something like that, it'd be great if you could leave a comment. So these kinds of fights they are so much fun, where you've got 3 and 4 players all trying to hunt you down. I've got the AI Church Covenant member there. There's also another one that's just kind of standing off to the right, and I'm not sure if that's a glitch and he's dead, or if he's just glitched out and he's standing there for everyone, but he's not contributing to the fight in any kind of meaningful way. I thought maybe I'd gotten the host there. No such luck. So we've got 2 Phantoms down, we've got the host and 1 more Phantom left, and just like a normal boss fight, when you summon a lot of people, it empowers the boss. The boss, in this case me, has more health. Actually, the total health in this case remains the same. It's just I get an enormous boost to my defenses. So you can see, even though I'm getting hit by that great club, it's not even doing the damage a typical straight sword R1 would do. Normally that great club hits you 2 or 3 times and that's it. But with all the summons that they had, he can hit me many more times without doing a ton of damage. So initially I was pretty worried about my chances, but now that I've got it down to just the host and a phantom, I'm starting to feel pretty good. Just as I start to feel that optimism, I see the AI Guardian getting destroyed here. It's really helpful to keep them around. It splits their attention, and maybe more importantly, when he heals, it heals you too. And you do not need to be standing next to him. I've been standing halfway across the arena when he's healed, and it has healed me. So if there is some sort of distance-based restriction, it's not apparent to me what it is. And this is such a funny ending here. It's always nice when one of the co-opers recognizes a job well done. And you can see I got 3 ornaments. The more phantoms there are, the more ornaments you receive as a reward. Up to 1 phantom, host and a phantom, you get 1, and then for each phantom beyond 1, you get an extra ornament. And these guys have got kind of like a funny little cosplay going with Ornstein and Smo. At least the hammer. I could have sworn when I saw this originally, I thought he was wearing the actual Smo outfit, but evidently not. This guy's kind of playing with fire with that charge move while I've got my parry shield out. But I think he was probably cognizant of the parry risk, and he was just only using it when I was not paying direct attention to him. So one of the reasons, if you're good at playing unlocked, you can play against one person and kind of keep an eye on the other, and they may think that you're not paying attention, and then you can get off a parry. That lightning attack at the end, though, does a considerable amount of damage. So if you're close to the end of the charge, you want to be careful trying to parry, because you may whiff it and then just eat that entire lightning blast in the face. I also know in the past when I've used spears against somebody who has like a cestus, sometimes if the connection's really good, which evidently this one is not, you can see the phantoms are starting to kind of jump around. But if they, on a good connection, somebody can pretty easily react parry a spear R1, so you really need to mix those up when somebody has a parry shield out. I'm not a big fan of trying to reaction parry stuff like that. It just kind of seems a little cheesy to me. I'd rather focus on the fight fundamentals. When I first started doing PvP, I used to parry all the time. I had Yorms and I had the buckler, and it was a ton of fun because I would one-shot the phantoms if I scored a parry. And in the early days of this game, when it first came out in early 2016, the majority of the players playing the PvE, playing the campaign, they were not sophisticated PvP players. And so they would do all kinds of dumb things like rolling attacks and charge attacks that were easily parried. So I could get away with an approach like that. Nowadays, not so much. Most players are sophisticated enough to know to avoid things like rolling attacks. They're sophisticated enough to understand, even if they themselves cannot parry, they at least understand the basics of it, and they're much more difficult to parry. And I never want to spam parry. I just think that's really cheesy. So unless I can pick it clean, unless I have a really good read, I'm typically not going to go for it. This fight really went on for quite some time. I'm at very low health, but because of the damage mitigation, even though my health looks pretty low, it's actually pretty substantial still. They still have to take quite a few whacks at me in order to get me, in order to kill me. And I finally get the backstab on this guy that I've been going for the entire fight. So you'll see in an upcoming video clip that I put together, one of the things that you can do in addition to being summoned as a Spear of the Church is in your own world, if you've already beaten Adjudicator Argo, you can actually bring him back. I believe an unlimited number of times you can bring him back and refight the Spears of the Church. I know when you first beat this boss you get a Titanite slab, but on subsequent fights it does not appear that you get a slab, which was honestly a little disappointing. I thought it was a measured way of being able to farm these up, but not give them to you too terribly easily. But it appears that's not the case. It doesn't look like you can actually farm them. But you'll see here in an upcoming clip I actually show that process of bringing him back, and then what happens when you go in a subsequent fight, especially when you're a member of the Covenant. So you're supposed to be defending the church, and if you come in to fight the boss again, there's some interesting dialogue that you don't get the first time through. And he went for it again. He went for the charge when he shouldn't have, and I get the riposte. And then I whiffed the punish there. That was pretty disappointing. Yeah, it's a good bet now that he will not try that charge again. And now I see he's really getting greedy by throwing out parries, so I'm already thinking about how I'm going to backstab him when he throws the next one out. You see me kind of circling around there looking to see if he would try it. Getting to stand right on top of him so he can Estus, but I'm going to take that Estus right back as soon as he does it. And now he's kind of panic healing. And all that rolling around, he ran out of stamina. I break his guard, and he disconnects. I don't really understand what disconnecting in that case really gives you. I mean, you're out of Estus. I guess it saves you a number. So here you see me bringing Judicator Argo back, and it warns you pretty thoroughly that, hey, you're about to do this and you're going to have to fight through them again. It ends up costing me like 44,000 souls. I don't know if the cost is related to your level or anything like that. So here I am coming back. I've actually unequipped the Covenant, so I do not have the Covenant equipped, but the game knows that you belong to the Covenant, and here Argo basically warns you not to come in. And from the dialogue, I was initially concerned that by going into the boss I would be kicked out of the Covenant or reduced in level somehow. So I asked on Reddit and was assured that was not the case. And so I made a backup of my save anyway, decided to come in here and tow it with one of the spears. It didn't do anything to my standing in the Covenant, at least nothing apparent that I can see. So it seems like you can still spawn this boss back in if you're in the Covenant. But again, disappointing because it costs you so many souls, so it's really obviously not a soul farming mechanism. Plus there's plenty of other easier enemies in this game that give you a lot of souls in a lot of chunks. They were definitely thinking of players that want to keep playing this game, given all the items that they give you. And here, if you time this correctly, you can backstab him before he can run away, and I'm just fractions of a second late there. And here I'm kind of throwing caution to the wind. I'm not worrying about how much damage he's doing to me because I know I'm on a clock. I've got about 15 seconds to kill him before the invader comes in. So I'm not healing, I'm not worrying about my health at all. And fortunately, right as the invader comes in, I was able to dispatch him. And I'm a little worried. He looks like he's got a try-hard setup with a scythe and S-stock. You can see with only me here, he does not have high defenses. He makes the mistake of rolling in on me after the 2 R1s and trying to rolling attack. Not really smart. If he'd waited just a moment and rolled out, he would have had the other Phantom there to help him and potentially heal him. Thanks for watching.